Bonjour everyone, I am Anne-Lise Cailliez and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we ditch the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Welcome to another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO. My name is Anne-Lise Cailliez and I am your host, and I am really excited to have with me Carol Agnew, who has been a therapist for over 20 years. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist who owns Open Door Counseling Center in Michigan. Carol, this is a pleasure to meet you and have you on the show today. In your own words, could you describe a bit about your story and background to the people who are meeting you today?
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and have worked at a variety of different places. And it's been over 25 years, actually, that I've been working. And I can't believe it's that many, but it's been that long. And I really like focusing on working with couples and families and kids. So I really wanted to create a place that was specifically for that, as well as to find a way to get the therapist be treated better.
Carol, it is so good to have you on the show, and I have so many questions for you today. So first, you're a mother of 4 and you have your own business. That's my first question. How do you do it?
It is definitely a juggling act. The business actually allows me a lot of flexibility. I have a wonderful admin team that, handles the day in and day out stuff so that I'm able to go to the school events or pick up, drop off kids to different things, spend quality time at home. It really is a blessing to have the business, to have that flexibility.
Because you have 2 centers, right? And they're open 7 days a week. So how do you juggle it all? How was it? Because I'm sure you didn't necessarily think that you would ever be a business owner when you started this career. So what was that journey like for you?
I never thought about being a business owner until maybe 10 years ago, when I was working in a private practice doing a lot of the owner's tasks and thinking I could be doing this for myself instead of for her. And I really wanted to create a place where the therapists could be appreciated. The therapists are like the bottom of the barrel. They aren't paid well. There's no benefits, a 1099 job where they don't even take taxes out, and I just wanted a place where therapists were appreciated and able to have benefits and able to have, paid time off to go, spend time with their kids or do whatever they needed to do. Have a vacation, right? We so need vacations in this work. You definitely need to take some downtime from listening to everybody else's problems and negativity. You definitely need time. And so I wanted to make a place that not only treated the clients well and made a safe space for them, but also a safe space for the therapists where they could feel appreciated and get the kind of benefits that other people enjoy.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. The team is everything. And how can you provide good service if people are not feeling comfortable in their own skin and are not happy at work? It just doesn't work in the long run. And so what was your strategy to go from scaling from being a solo practice to a group practice owner?
I actually never was a solo practice. I went straight in from working for someone else to starting the group practice. I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to go big or go home, right? So I started right away. I found a place with five offices and started interviewing as soon as I found the location, and off and running we went.
So does that mean that you already had a team, so you didn't do it gradually one by one by one?
I hired 2 people to start, so it was myself and 2 other people. I brought the majority of my caseload from the previous place I had worked, and then working on trying to get accredited for insurance and all that kind of stuff in the beginning. So we basically went from nothing to 3 of us.
And so how did you handle, so you brought in your caseload, and how did you do with the two new therapists?
I did some marketing, put us on Google, got us on the internet, as many places as I could put us, did some advertising around the community just to get the phone ringing.
So
Yeah,
what
I
have
did
you,
have one admin team person that I hired right in the beginning, and she was a huge help.
and so as you started your business, what did you find were the most efficient marketing strategies or marketing channels to get going with your marketing for the practice?
We got the most, especially in the beginning, but even still today, Psychology Today is a huge marketing platform for us. We get a lot of calls from there. We've also hired an agency to help boost our Google ads and our online presence so that we're working to fill up our second location. So that's what the marketing agency is doing.
And I'm seeing that you have no wait list and offer appointments within 3-5 days, which is pretty rare in mental health, right? So how do you manage scheduling and capacity to make that possible? And what's the business model that makes it work?
I think, well, part of it is that we have a really great intake process. And so we are able to kind of weed out the ones that aren't a good fit for us. And it really encourages the one that are a good fit for us to follow through. So there's actually a 50% no follow through rate from people calling initially to actually seeing a therapist. 50% of them fall off the bandwagon there. So we've worked really hard to increase that number, and our number is more like 70% that actually make it through into being a client. We also are very specific in that we don't take substance abuse. We don't take court ordered people. We really focus on couples counseling and working with kids and teens and families. So a lot of times there's maybe more openings because we're not working with those. Substance abuse is a huge population, and court ordered another big population that we're not servicing.
I see. So essentially, it sounds like you're really good at intake and you have your process down to be able to receive this flow of patients. And you're also selective with who you're working with.
Right. When you get to be in private practice, you get to be a little more picky about who you take and who you don't take. We're not community mental health where they have to take anybody that walks in the door. So we want to make sure that it's a good fit for the therapist and for the client, right? So that we have good results on the other end. If we don't have a therapist that is a good fit for the issues that the client is bringing in, then we're not going to have good success.
That makes sense. And what was the rationale behind choosing private versus servicing the community?
I worked with community mental health for many years earlier on in my career, and I was really tired of this crazy paperwork and the silly rules. There seemed to be a rule for everything, being micromanaged. It wasn't so much about the population. Working with the population was great. The actual therapy was great. It was the management of the job and all of the paperwork that went with it. So I decided that it was time. It was time that I needed to do my own thing. And felt like I had the knowledge and experience, even though I didn't know what I didn't know, and learned a lot on the way through. Kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But I had that mentality that, if I build it, they will come, right? Kind of like the field of dreams, right? And I just had the confidence that it was going to work. And here we are, 2 locations and 14 therapists, and we're plugging right along. So
it's an amazing journey. And for a practice that's thinking about doing the same move as you, going from community to private, what would you say are the things that they should consider and be prepared for that transition?
I think the decision to take insurance or not is a big one. Getting credentialed, getting the business credentialed, getting the individual therapist credentialed is a terrible, awful, long, frustrating, confusing task. And so to maybe do your homework ahead of time, or even hire, there are companies that will do it for you, that kind of thing. And to just, to be able to do some research and to learn some business stuff before you start. There was a lot of business things, you have payroll, you have marketing, you have, just paying the bills. You have your admin team. There's a lot of different aspects of being a business owner that you don't think about before you're a business owner. You just think, oh, you're running the business. Gosh. And it's a lot more complicated than that. It's just a lot more, there's so much more to it, so many different types of things. And if you're not good with money, right, then find someone to help you before you start. Right? If you're not good with numbers or whatever, I tend to really enjoy the numbers side of the business. And so I feel like I might be in a different position than some therapists. I know a lot of therapists are very more in the, they like the therapy. They don't like the paperwork and all the busy work and all the numbers crunching and, kind of keeping track of where you're going and all of that. So I feel like I'm blessed that I have both of those skills. And I think that helps me to be more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very common, especially in a field like mental health, to see business owners and founders who didn't want to be business owners and founders. So they put in a place where they have to do things that are completely out of their comfort zone. They don't really want to do it. That's not really what they enjoy. And so I think you're absolutely right with understanding what one you're not interested in doing, what you're not good at, what you don't want to do, and find as soon as possible the right partner to help you in this area where you need help. Absolutely.
Yes.
That also makes the business more enjoyable.
For sure. It's a lot less stressful when you're doing things you enjoy doing and not, you're trusting. Finding people to trust, is super important, and you're trusting them to do their job, and they're worth every penny.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I love hiring, and that's one of the part of the business that I love the most is hiring and working with a team. And what would you say if you had a magic wand that could help you in the business right now? What do you think it would be?
Wow. A magic wand. I think it would be to increase the amount of intakes we have. It's, the intakes are the heart of the business. Having more and more people come and being able to help them and hook them up with the therapists and have good work being done. Yeah.
And Carol, did you ever imagine that this is what your career would like, that you have already 2 locations and 14 therapists? It's not how you had necessarily envisioned it.
I really, really hadn't envisioned it. I knew that I wanted to have a group. I kind of expected it to be 5 or 6 people, and we got to 5 or 6 people and we were still growing. And so we just, kept hiring. And then we started taking interns, and that's been a wonderful thing just to see them grow and to do the extra training with them, around couples therapy and around working with the kids. And it's so, it just brings new energy to the business to have interns and limited license people learning the trade and, to see them where I was 20 years ago and, to know that these people are going to be fantastic therapists.
Amazing. Does it happen often that they become staff, the interns?
Ideally, that's our goal, is that we take in the interns and hope that we train them the way we want them to be trained, and then that we just naturally hire them upon graduation. We have had a few that it hasn't worked that way for a variety of reasons, but that's our goal, is to be able to hire them on once we've had them as interns.
And Carol, what's your big why? Why are you doing the things? Why did you start the business? Why did you pick that career?
I wanted to be, it started in high school. I took a psychology class in high school, and it was like real life. I was like, wow, this is real life. I could do something and really enjoy it and just really connect with it. So I went to college for psychology, and it was horrible. And it was all about research, and I didn't like it. So I ended up working, I got a double degree with child development and family studies, which was the precursor degree to marriage and family therapy. And I decided in high school that I really wanted to be a marriage and family therapist and work with the whole family instead of just an individual therapist, because in high school, we had a program called Positive Peer Program, the PPPs, and it was kind of like a peer counseling program where people would come and they would just talk, the other kids would come and we would just try to support them and help them. And I had one that had been being abused by her father, and I felt very helpless that I couldn't work with, I couldn't change her situation. I couldn't work with her family to help that, be better. All I could do was, I had to report it, unfortunately, to our, to the teacher that was in charge of that program. And that was really what led me to think, I really want to work with the whole family. I really want to work in a place, I want to be able to go to the root of what's the problem, and help them all do better, help them all be healthier.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say are essential qualities to be a good family therapist? What are you supposed to juggle well with?
I really think you have to be self-aware, and you have to be willing to look at your own limitations and your own triggers, your own things that get you hooked up on. And I think you have to do your own therapy. If you don't do that piece, you're only going to be able to take your clients so far. I think you have to be empathetic. You have to be brave. There's a lot of people that get into this profession that are caregiver type people. That just want to take care of people. They want to help people. They want to, but those kind of people tend to be conflict avoidant, and they don't do so well in the therapy process because they have to be able to say the hard things. You have to be straightforward and honest. You have to be, sometimes it's it's bold and it's brutal, but I always try to do it in a way and try to teach it in a way that is like nurturing, but firm, like I'm saying this not to hurt you, or I'm saying this, you need this feedback because this is what's happening and this is how you're impacting other people. So I think if you're not able to be, to say the things you need to say, you have to work on that to be a really, really good therapist.
Absolutely. And Carol, so you are straightforward and honest, and that's not always easy, whether it's in business ownership or in therapy, as you described. When did you realize that being direct was actually your strength and not something to soften?
I actually wasn't so straightforward in the beginning. I was conflict avoidant, and I realized that I had to be able to say the hard things when my clients weren't improving. They weren't getting better. Like we'd get to a point and they'd get stuck, and they're stuck because I'm sitting over here thinking they really need to know this information, but I'm too afraid to say it because I don't want them to leave me. I want to keep them as clients and I want to keep our relationship nice. But you have to realize that a therapeutic relationship in the therapeutic office, it's completely different than any other relationship anywhere else in your life, because it's a safe space where you can say what you need to say and you can say the hard stuff, even if it's scary. And that's when you really have really good work, is when those things are said, and from both the client and the therapist are able to say those really hard things and to go to that depth and to heal. That's what creates that healing.
Do you think this is a common phenomenon or something that therapists often experience, not saying exactly what they wish they could say because of the fear of the client leaving them if they don't like what they're hearing?
Yes, especially with the newer therapists, I think that's a huge issue. Yes, because they're human too, right? They don't want to get rejected. They don't want to lose their clients. Typically the newer therapists are, desperate for clients or hours or whatever to get their licensing or their schooling done. And so losing a client seems like a big deal. But if you are able to do it in a way that's nurturing, typically you will not lose that client by being honest with them. You have to be able to be honest and call people on their stuff. That's the whole point of you being there, of them coming in, is you calling them and making them aware of what they're doing isn't working. I mean, they probably know it's not working, but having them take responsibility for what they're doing and how they're doing it is the key to making everything else work.
And so how did you make that happen when you decided, I need to be more direct, I need to be more bold? How did you summon the courage, to change and to adjust?
I think it was like anything else. It took practice, and I would get nervous before sessions, like I know I really need to say this today to this person, but I'm really anxious about doing that. And I would just tell myself, sometimes you just got to get in there and, don't think about it, just do it, right? Don't put so much thought and emotion into it. Just go forward and do what you need to do. And the more I did that, the more success I had, which encouraged me to continue saying what I needed to say and being more honest and open and challenging people to step up and take responsibility for their lives and their emotions and how they behave, to make their lives healthier.
And do you ever still feel sometimes here and there imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you
Some days
overcome
I'm
it?
like, I can't believe I'm a business owner. Some days I'm like, being a therapist, I'm pretty secure in that role after all these years. There's been many years where I was like, yeah, I'm a therapist, but how good of a therapist?
Mm,
Right? There really isn't, a scale to rate
right.
yourself, on how good a therapist you are. We try to judge on how many people we help or how many clients, stay with us. After the first session, we don't lose clients after the first session. That's always a sign of you're bonding with them.
So how did you decide, or how did you reach the conclusion after some years, I imagine, that no, I am secure now as a therapist, I am secure, and same for as a business owner? When did you decide? I mean, I'm sure imposter syndrome it picks up sometimes, but then how do you decide, no, my place is here, I know what I'm doing, and how did you develop that confidence?
With the business, it was probably 3 or 4 years into it before I really felt like I knew what I was doing. It really helped. I joined a group that taught how to run a mental health group practice, and that was tremendously helpful. It was support, it was places I could ask questions, it was suggestions on how to outsource and who to delegate stuff to, and all of that helped me gain some confidence that what I was doing was good, and the money's coming in. And that, once the money started being consistent and reliable, and there's always that every once in a while, I get butterflies about the money not being there, but it is there, and it's coming, and it's continuing, and it's working, and I have to trust the process. When I get nervous about that, I have to go back and say, it's okay. We have money in the bank. We're good. We've done what we needed to do to prepare and save, and we'll get through this. There are definitely ebbs and flows as the year goes by, between the holidays and the summer and things, when school starts up again, everybody comes back to therapy. It's like there's just these expected times. January is super slow. So we plan for that. So that, once you've been through it a few years, then you're like, okay, so I don't have to freak out because January was really slow, because I know things pick up again in February and we'll be fine. It's like the long-term view instead of the immediacy of what's in the bank account right today.
Right. Year after year, you start seeing the patterns and the seasonality of the business and able to regulate yourself better when the dips happen. The dips are going to happen anyway. It's having a business is,
Right. And if they don't, then you have COVID. Then all kinds of things change. Yeah. So there's always something.
And if you were to meet your 20-year-old self, Carol, what piece of advice, of wisdom would you share with her today?
I think I would tell her to have more confidence in herself. I think I would tell her that she's going to be fine and she's going to learn all kinds of things and that she can take on the world if she wants to.
Amazing. And Carol, where can people find you and what's coming up for your business this year?
They can find us. Our website is opendoorcounselingcenter.com, and we are in Clinton Township and Troy, Michigan. What's coming up is a continuation of building our Troy office. That's the one we just opened. Clinton Township is doing well, so that's really what we're focusing on, is increasing traffic and helping couples and kids and families become healthier.
Amazing. Carol, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today and discovering your story and how you scaled your businesses and so many lessons that I'm sure our listeners are benefiting from. Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And that wraps up today's episode. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.